Elite Facts presents
7 controversial video game incidents that are crazy.
7.
GTA 4. How could we not include a Grand Theft Auto game on this list? These games are always shrouded in controversy. Prior to and since the release of Grand Theft Auto 4, the game had been subject to a great deal of controversy, as was the case with previous Grand Theft Auto titles. Figures including George Galloway, Jack Thompson, and Hillary Clinton have criticized the game, as have organizations including New York City officials and Mothers Against Drunk Driving, also known as MAD. MAD asked ESRB to change the rating of the game from M, for ages 17 and up, to AO, for adults only, due to the player's ability to drive under the influence of alcohol. That's not all, as Grand Theft Auto 4 has been widely criticized for its depiction of violence and murder. On his program, conservative American talk radio host Glenn Beck used Grand Theft Auto 4 as an example to make wider claims about the use of violent video games by the U.S. military, repeating claims made by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman that the military uses shooting games to desensitize soldiers to killing. This is all pretty much a normal day for Grand Theft Auto.
6.
Left 4 Dead 2. This one is certainly a weird one, so this game is controversial for 3 different reasons. One that affects the fans of the series, and the other on a more political note. After the release of Left 4 Dead 1 back in November of 2008, Valve promised fans that there would be new maps released regularly for the game for free after launch. This immediately got fans excited and eagerly anticipated the announcement of the first downloadable map for the game. Excitement quickly turned into rage when Left 4 Dead 2 was announced only 7 months after the first game's release. Fans went absolutely ballistic at the news and attempted to boycott the game. Obviously, they failed and ended up joining the millions of people in playing Left 4 Dead 2 when the game finally came out on November 18, 2009. The other controversy brought up was the increased number of African-American zombies in this game in comparison to the number of African-American zombies in the previous game. This allegation was brought up by Willie Jefferson of the Houston Chronicle. The case was deemed ridiculous and thus forgotten about. The other controversy that impacted the game the most, however, was its censorship and classification ban in Germany and Australia. In Germany, the game was altered to remove gory details so it looked more like its predecessor, Left 4 Dead 1, but instead added in weapons from Valve's other hit game, Counter-Strike, as a way of apologizing. The game, however, was downright banned in Australia due to excessive violence and drug use in the form of weapon items such as pills and adrenaline shots. It wasn't until 2014 that the ban was lifted with an 18+ age rating.
5.
Resident Evil 5. We remember following all the news back in the day regarding Resident Evil 5. Being a longtime fan of the series, we were incredibly excited to see what this new installment had to offer. I mean, come on, looked like Resident Evil 4 on steroids. Well, technically it was. Did you see Chris's arms in Resident Evil 5? Anyway, we still remember seeing the debut trailer for the game back in 2007, and it looked amazing. Like the darkly lit and grungy hallways that lead into the daylight. No other horror game has made the daytime seem so damn creepy. And then the controversy came when the next trailer was released showing off actual gameplay footage. The gameplay looked fine, as it did look like Resident Evil 4, but with a major graphical overhaul, the graphics still holding up nicely to this day. And it looked way too action-packed to be a Resident Evil game, which stirred minor controversy among fans of the series. However, that's not what we're talking about. In the initial trailer, it was up for debate where the game was taking place, as it was just showing off a slum-type area. This new trailer, however, showed a white protagonist shooting down a ton of infected African-American citizens. Ouch! You can easily see why this was controversial. It was so controversial that it also had a hand in affecting the game's release date, as it was pushed from its intended release until its eventual release in March of 2009. The game itself was actually a really well-made game, and some thrilling action and somewhat intriguing storyline. However, it's universally panned by longtime fans of the Resident Evil series, and is considered the worst game in the franchise for its shift from horror to action.
4.
Hatred. Oh man, this one is just ridiculous and genius at the exact same time. So back in 2014, a company called Destructive Creations released a trailer for their new game on Steam Greenlight. This game was called Hatred. Just by the sound of the title and the look of the logo, you could tell you were going to see the most edgy game since Postal back in 1997. Hatred is about a guy who just wants to die and wants to take as many people as he possibly can with him. That's just lovely. The debut trailer showed the main character stocking up on weapons, stating that he is disgusted by humanity's general existence right before going out into the streets and wreaking havoc on anyone in sight. Now, what makes this so genius? From a marketing standpoint, for a new game developer on the scene, this is a PR wet dream. They got so much focus and attention that when the game was removed from Steam Greenlight for being too controversial, only to be placed back on Greenlight a week later. Because of all the controversy, everyone got curious when the game eventually was released to the public. Needless to say, the game was mediocre, but the developer profited greatly thanks to all the controversy.
3,
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Say what you want about the Call of Duty franchise, but Modern Warfare 2 is one of the best in the series, no question about it. Building off the foundation laid by its predecessor, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2 managed to bring us tight, realistic gameplay that's set in a modern combat environment. However, with a game that has as realistic tone as this one, you have to imagine there's going to be some controversial segment at some point in the game. At the very start of the game's campaign, the player is given an option to either skip controversial content or play through it at their own risk. If they decide to accept the risk, they're given the infamous mission known as No Russian during the game's first act. The mission involves you and a group of masked assailants gunning down civilians in an airport. It's pretty easy to see why this was so controversial. Even with the warning message at the start of the campaign, this still managed to stir up trouble. This mission is missing from the Russian version of the game and has been altered in the German and Japanese versions of the game, where if a player hits a civilian, the game will send them back to the previous checkpoint.
2,
No Man's Sky. We're going to be here forever, aren't we? Okay, to sum it up really quickly, the game was filled to the brim with false promises. Now, you could honestly argue that we have ourselves to blame also for getting so hyped up for No Man's No Man's Sky. However, how could we not get hyped when we're told things like being able to encounter other players in this massive universe, destroy space stations and fleets, land on asteroids, the technical possibility of flying between star systems manually, planets rotating and orbiting around a sun, actual ship classes and differentiation, more natural flight characteristics, resources depending on distance from the sun, environmental factors, the ability to play the game solely as a trade or solely in space, and so on and so on and so on. Now, some of those things may sound like a bit of a nitpick. However, when you're creating an open universe game while promising these features, you're damn right people are going to get excited at all the possibilities when it comes to exploring. It's honestly a damn shame.
1,
Konami in general. Why does Konami hate us? We want to give them our hard-earned cash like we used to back in the day, but over the last several years, it's gotten to the point where we just downright refuse to give them money for their so-called games. Okay, that statement may be a bit harsh, as the games they have released do function as games. Shame we can't give as much praise for their storylines. Now, if you couldn't guess what we're referring to games such as Silent Hill Downpour, Castlevania Shadows of Castlevania Lords of Shadows, and Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. As games, they're pretty damn good, but story-wise, they're an insult to their beloved franchises. Now, Metal Gear Solid 5 does have a good story to it, no question about that. However, you've got to admit that the ending is incredibly lackluster. There's been rumors and speculation that Konami actually went out of their way and cut the ending from the game just so they could sell it as a DLC, a la Capcom and their Asura's Wrath True Ending DLC. It's just so petty because most of the flaws and faults that are tied to MGS5 are because of the controversy that stirred up between Konami and beloved game director Hideo Kojima. Now, you're probably saying, no company is so petty that they target a single person's work, are they? Well, it turns out that Konami are that petty, as not only did they endanger the development of the Phantom Pain, which, fair enough, costs were getting a bit too much in order to produce the game, but this is still no way to act. They canceled Kojima's attempt in reviving the Silent Hills franchise, which we were personally looking forward to. They closed down Kojima's in-house studio known as Kojima Productions, and they banned him from attending the Game Awards in 2015, as he and his company were nominated for Developer of the Year. If he did attend, he would have been hit with several class action lawsuits. That's just ridiculous. Kojima has now moved on to brighter pastures as he has reopened Kojima Productions as an independent company and is now currently working on his new Sony exclusive title, Death Stranding. Konami, on the other hand, well, they're currently butchering beloved franchises by making crappy spin-off titles like Metal Gear Survive and Silent Hill Goddamn Pachinko. Thanks, Konami. Did we leave any noteworthy gaming controversies out of our list? Let us know in the comments section below. And thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.